I need a real alpha who pushes his limits. It's not me, it's your lack of testosterone, she said, dumping me for her trainer. So I vanished and focused on myself. Now she's bruised, full of regret, and begging for a rescue I have zero interest in providing. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The change was so gradual I almost missed it. It started in the language. It was no longer going to the gym, it was attacking my session. Dinner wasn't just dinner, it was hitting my macros. My girlfriend Mia had always been fit. But after joining the exclusive steel and glass fortress known as Apex Fitness, her hobby curdled into an obsession and it all revolved around him. Kale, her personal trainer. I first heard the name a month ago. Kale says my glit activation is lazy, she'd announced, critiquing her own reflection in our microwave. He says I'm leaving gains on the table. I chuckled, chopping vegetables for a stir-fry. Sounds intense. Does this Kale ever just tell people to enjoy moving their body? She'd shot me a look that was equal parts pity and annoyance. It's not about enjoyment, Jake, it's about optimization. Kale says, excellence is a choice you make every single day. That became her new mantra. Kale says the words were a prefix to every critique of our formerly comfortable life. My reliable job and project management became a comfortable cage. My enjoyment of a beer with friends on Friday was sabotaging my recovery. My physique, perfectly healthy, capable of hiking 15 miles without a complaint, was undeveloped and lacking density. A memory surfaced, sharp and painful in its contrast. Just last year, we'd summit Grey Rock Peak, a tough sun-baked climb that left us breathless and exhilarated. At the top, covered in dust and sweat, she'd kissed me, her smile genuine and bright. "This is it," she'd said, her breath fogging in the cool air. "This is what feeling alive is, just us right here." I'd held her and we'd watched the hawk circle below us, feeling utterly connected. That woman seemed to have been replaced by a stranger who measured happiness in grams of protein and perceived effort. The final straw came on a Tuesday. I'd spent my lunch break prepping a healthy seared salmon with roasted asparagus and sweet potato, a meal she would have loved a month ago. She walked in from her PM shred session, her hair damp, her skin flushed. She dropped her gym bag and eyed the plate I set before her with the scrutiny of a bomb disposal expert. "What's the fat content on this?" she asked, poking the perfectly crisped salmon skin with her fork. "I don't know, Mia. It's a piece of fish and some vegetables. It's healthy." "Healthy isn't a macro," she said, her voice flat. Kale says, "If you're not tracking, you're just guessing. You can't achieve an elite physique by guessing, Jake." She sighed, a long, weary sound meant to convey the immense burden of my inadequacy. "It takes a level of discipline I don't think you're capable of. It's a mindset." The condescension in her voice was a physical slap. This wasn't about health anymore, it was a value judgment. I put down my knife. I thought the goal was to be healthy and happy, not to win a trophy. She looked at me as if I'd just spoken in tongues. "Happiness is a result of excellence, Jake, not the other way around. Kale says settling for good enough is why most people live mediocre lives." She pushed the plate away untouched. "I'm not hungry. I have my post-workout shake to dial in." She walked out of the kitchen, leaving me with the 2 plates of food and the chilling realization that I was no longer dating Mia. I was dating a walking, talking echo of a man named Kale, and I was losing badly to the original. The gnawing feeling in my gut refused to be silenced by logic. Kale says the words were a worm, burrowing deeper. Supportive boyfriend Jake Ward with increasingly suspicious Jake. I decided on a gesture, a peace offering to the woman I hoped was still in there somewhere. I'd surprise her after her session and suggest dinner at that new sushi place she'd mentioned weeks ago. Apex Fitness was a temple of polished concrete and grunting effort. The air smelled of bleach, sweat, and expensive cologne. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I saw them before they saw me. They were in the free weights area. Mia was on the bench press, the bar loaded with more weight than I'd ever seen her handle. And Kale was there, leaning over her, his hands not just guiding the bar but practically enveloping her, his chest pressed against her shoulder, his face inches from hers. He was whispering something in her ear as she strained. It wasn't professional. It was possessive, intimate. She laughed after the rep, a breathless, flattered sound I hadn't heard from her in weeks. He didn't move away. His hand stayed on her lower back, a claim staked. I felt the Thai food from last time threatened to make a reappearance. I didn't go in. I just turned and walked back to my car. The image seared into my brain. The ride home was a blur. That evening, the apartment felt like a stranger's house. She came in later, still buzzing with that post-kale energy. She didn't mention seeing me. I was chopping vegetables, the knife hitting the board with a sharper rhythm than usual. "We need to talk," I said, my back to her. "Okay," she replied, her tone already defensive, as if I were about to criticize her form. I turned around, leaning against the counter. "I stopped by Apex today." Her face went carefully neutral. "Oh, what?" "I was going to surprise you, suggest dinner." I let the sentence hang in the air, watching her. She didn't flinch. She just waited, her arms crossed. "I saw you with Kale." Her chin lifted a fraction, a challenge. "And is there something going on with you and him?" The question sounded pathetic even to me. I already knew the answer. She didn't even bother to deny it. A strange, relieved smile touched her lips, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "It was inevitable, Jake." The coldness in her voice was absolute. Being around someone who operates at that level, it rewires your DNA. He lives at a 10. Everything is passion, intensity, maximum effort. "You..." She looked me up and down, and I saw not the man she'd loved, but a symbol of everything she now despised. "You're comfortable. You play it safe. You're a solid 6 out of 10 on your best day." The numerical rating was so absurd, so reductive that I almost laughed. But the cruelty behind it kept the sound locked in my throat. I need a real alpha who pushes his limits, who isn't afraid of discomfort. I can't live a 6 out of 10 life anymore. "It's not me, it's your lack of testosterone." Lack of testosterone. The words echoed in the silent kitchen. All my support, my stability, my love reduced to a character flaw. She delivered the final blow with a serene, breathtaking entitlement. "Kale is a king, and I need a king." I looked at her. I saw the woman from the mountaintop now buried under a layer of performative hardness and toxic inspiration. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt a vast hollow sadness for her, for the person she was throwing away for a man who defined his worth by a weight rack. The storm of emotions, the betrayal, the hurt, the rage froze into a single crystalline point of clarity. There was nothing to fight for here. The person I loved was already gone. I simply nodded, my voice eerily calm. "Okay, enjoy life at a 10. I turned my back on her, walked to our bedroom, and closed the door. I didn't slam it. The soft click of the latch was more final than any scream could ever be. The conversation was over. We were over. The silence in the spare room of my buddy Eric's apartment was a physical thing. It was heavy, but it was clean. It didn't smell of protein powder or echo with the ghost of condescending critiques. It was mine. The first night I didn't sleep. I replayed the scene on a loop, the coldness in her eyes, the numerical rating, the serene delivery of the kill shot. Each time the icy calm I'd found at the end would spread, numbing the raw, jagged edges of the betrayal. A 6 out of 10 life. The sheer absurdity of it began to outweigh the pain. It was the mantra of a cult member, not a partner. The next morning I made a list, not an emotional one, a logistical one. A plan of action was the only thing that kept the ice from cracking. Get keys from Super. Get boxes. Move out when she's at the gym. Block everywhere. I executed it with a detached surgical precision. I called the building Super, told them I'd lost my key. He grumbled but made a copy. I bought 20 small boxes from U-Haul. I didn't want to waste time assembling big ones. On Wednesday, I knew she'd be at Apex for her 2-hour alpha conditioning session with Kale. I took the day off. I walked into the apartment at 10 a.m. It was exactly as I'd left it. The 2 plates of uneaten salmon were still on the counter, now dried out and pathetic. I didn't pause. I didn't look at the photos on the mantel. I was a ghost, methodically dismantling my own existence from the space. I took only what was unequivocally mine. My clothes, my books, my hiking gear. I left anything that was ours or tainted by the new her. The fancy blender she used for her shakes. The food scale. The supplements. The work was mechanical, numbing. Each box taped shut was a door closing. By 2 p.m., my car was packed. The apartment looked largely the same, just emptier, as if a roommate had moved out, not a fiancé. I did one last walk through. I stopped in the doorway of the living room. I took a single deep breath. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing, a vast, empty neutrality. I took my key off my ring. I walked to the kitchen counter and set it down beside the petrified salmon. It made a final metallic click against the quartz. I walked out and didn't look back. In the car, I did step 4. I pulled out my phone, blocked her number, blocked her on Instagram, blocked her on Facebook, blocked her on WhatsApp. I didn't deactivate my accounts. I just removed her. I didn't make a grand statement. I just made myself disappear. Then I drove to Eric's, carried my boxes into the spare room and closed the door. The silence welcomed me back. It was my armor. The next few weeks were a blur of routine. I went to work. I answered, "I'm fine," to the few concerned queries. I didn't offer details, but I needed an outlet. The gym was tainted. Running felt like fleeing. I found a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym near my office. It was the antithesis of Apex Fitness. Humble, focused, quiet. There were no mirrors. The first time I stepped on the mats, I was submitted by a 15-year-old girl in under a minute. It was the most humbling and centering experience of my life. I was hooked. It wasn't about aesthetics. It was about leverage, technique, and calm under pressure. It was a better kind of strength. The first crack in their perfect world came through a text from Ben, a mutual friend. It was about a month after I'd left. "Ben, dude, ran into Mia and her new dude at Whole Foods. Yikes." I stared at the message. It felt like a probe. I didn't know what story she'd spun. Me? Oh yeah. The 3 dots appeared immediately. Ben, yeah, he'd a lot. They were arguing over which almond butter had the best purity profile or some __. He was talking to her like she was a misbehaving dog. It was uncomfortable. She looked super tense. I didn't respond. It wasn't my circus. But the rumors kept coming. My friend Lisa was at the same barbecue I'd opted out of. "Jake, it was bad," she said over coffee. He was there holding court, talking about beta energy and lecturing everyone on their life choices. Mia just sat there, not saying a word. She's lost so much weight. She just looked scared. And then he made some comment about Mike's dad bod, and Mike told him to __ off. Kale got right in his face, chest puffed out like he was going to fight him over a joke. Everyone just left after that. The picture was becoming horrifyingly clear. Kale's alpha persona was a fragile mask for a deeply insecure, violently possessive man. He was isolating her, monitoring her, draining the vibrant woman I'd known right out of her. The climax came from an unexpected source. Sarah, a woman from Mia's book club who'd always been kind and perceptive. She called me, her voice low and concerned. "Jake, hi. This is probably completely out of line. And please tell me to get lost if it is." "It's okay, Sarah. What's up?" "It's Mia. I ran into her at a coffee shop this morning. She was alone. She had these big sunglasses on. But when she took them off to order," Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. "Jake, she had a black eye. A really nasty one." I felt a sickening twist in my stomach. Not jealousy. A cold, dark sense of vindication mixed with pity. "What did she say?" I asked, my voice flat. "She said it was a kettlebell accident. Swung back too far during a workout." Sarah paused. "But she wouldn't make eye contact, and she flinched when the guy behind the counter moved too quickly. She looked like a hostage. I'm really worried about her." "I see," I said, the 2 words feeling utterly inadequate. I thought you should know." "Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate you telling me." I ended the call. Karma wasn't a lightning bolt. It was a slow, creeping frost, and it was freezing her world solid. She had chosen chaos disguised as passion, a dictator over a partner. She had left a life of quiet respect for a gilded cage, and the door had finally violently locked shut behind her. The first attempt was a text from a number I didn't recognize 2 days after my talk with Sarah. Unknown number. "Jake, it's Mia. I keep thinking about that hike up Grey Rock. That was real. Can we please talk?" It arrived while I was drilling an Armar transition at the BJJ gym. I read it once, my muscles burning with a productive, honest fatigue. The mention of Grey Rock was a calculated pull at nostalgia, but it felt hollow. I deleted the message and blocked the number. The action was clean, requiring no thought. My peace was not a negotiation. A week later, my phone buzzed with a call from Rachel, Mia's most persistent friend. "Jake." "Hey, look. I know this is weird," she started, her voice artificially bright. "It is," I replied, my tone neutral. "It's just, Mia is in a bad way. That Kale guy is a legit psychopath. He's cut her off from everyone. She's miserable. She knows she messed up epically. You were always so good to her. She just needs to hear a friendly voice, you know? I could hear the script she'd been given. I remained calm. I'm sorry she's in a difficult situation, Rachel. But she made her choice very clear. My piece isn't up for discussion. I ended the call before she could rebut. The circle of silence around me tightened. It felt stronger. The third attempt was the mask fully coming off. It was late. The caller ID showed unknown, but I knew. I answered, saying nothing. A choked sob echoed down the line. Jake. Her voice was raw, slurry. She'd been drinking, or crying, or both. I remained silent. Why are you doing this to me? The plea turned sharp, accusatory in a heartbeat. How can you be so cruel? I said I was sorry. What more do you want? I need you. I could hear her breathing, ragged and wet. The performance wasn't working. Are you happy now? She shrieked, the sound grating against my ear. I'm being abused, you underscore. Don't you care? Is this what you wanted? To be proven right? There it was, the true colors blazing through the tears. It was never about remorse. It was about utility. I was a tool she needed, and I had the audacity to be unavailable. Her anger was the pure, undiluted rage of the entitled being denied. I didn't speak. I didn't hang up. I just held the phone, a silent witness to her unraveling, until she finally gasped a wet, furious curse and ended the call herself. The email arrived a few days later. The sender address was a jumble of letters, mias.redemption.gmail.com, a secret, desperate channel. The subject line was, I was wrong. The body was a waterfall of text, rambling and pleading. Jake, I don't know if you'll get this. He checks everything. This is the only way. I can't do this anymore. It's a prison. He isn't who I thought he was. He gets so angry. He says it's because he loves me too much, but it's scary. Jake, I'm scared. I have no one. He made me push everyone away, and I was so stupid. I thought it was passion, but it's just control. I think about you every day, about how safe I felt, how you never looked at me like I was a possession. You looked at me like I was a person. I made the worst mistake of my life. I need you to save me. Please, just let me come home. I can't breathe here. Please. I read it once. Then I read it again, slower. I looked for genuine accountability in the word vomit. I found only fear and a desperate desire to be rescued. I need you to save me. Not, I want to fix what I broke. I opened a new reply. My fingers hovered over the keys. The silence in my apartment was complete. This wasn't about anger. It was about drawing a line in the sand so deep and permanent that not even her desperation could cross it. I began to type. To mias.reemption.empemptmail.com. Mia, I received your email. I'm sorry you're in a difficult situation, but it is one you chose with full awareness. You told me you needed a man who pushes his limits. You were right. I did. I found my limits were patience, self-respect, and peace, and I pushed past the need for any of this. You confused noise for strength. I found a better kind, the kind that doesn't need to scream or hurt people or leave bruises. I hope you find peace, but you won't find it here. My peace is not negotiable. Do not contact me again. Jake. I read it over once. It was calm. It was firm. It was a vault door closing. It reflected her words back at her while protecting the life I had built without her. I hit send. Then I selected the entire email chain and pressed delete. I emptied the trash folder. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. I looked out the window at the city lights. They looked the same as they had 10 minutes ago, and yet everything was different. It was finally completely over. The silence in the room was no longer just an absence of sound. It was a presence, and it was entirely my own. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.